Hello, Anytime here. Today, I will show you the recap of a 2010 superhero anime titled Justice League: Crisis in Two Earths. Spoiler alert, watch out and take care. In a parallel world, Lex and Joker, who's called Jester in that world, break into the headquarters of a crime company. As they enter, Lex tells Joker that the members of the crime syndicate have been informed of their arrival, and a silent alarm has been sent to them. Together, they break through all the compartments until they get to where they steal the quantum trigger. As they take it, a loud alarm rings, and all the members of the crime syndicate arrive. Together, Lex and Joker try to escape through all the compartments, but they both admit it won't be enough. As they eventually hide underground, Lex asks the Joker to enter, but he refuses. He tells Lex that there is no way they can both survive in that environment, and he tells Lex to go while he fights their enemies. While Lex watches from afar, he sees his dear friend, Joker, explode alongside his enemies. He says he won't let Joker's sacrifice go in vain. As he walks away, he meets the other crime syndicate members who attempt to attack him, but he tells them he has made a higher promise to Joker, which he will surely fulfill, and he disappears. In the real world, the Justice League members build their headquarters. Batman tries out new telepathy equipment on Flash and makes Flash jump and find himself in the headquarters. He accuses Batman of wanting to try a piece of untested equipment on him, saying that he doesn't think Batman likes him that much, but his colleagues reply that Batman likes nobody. Lex jumps into that world. He stands by the road and asks for a police station. As he enters the station, he tells them it's an emergency, and they remind him that all cases at the police station are an emergency. Immediately, they see it's Lex. They capture him, and he tells them he wants to speak to the members of the Justice League, and he means no harm. So they call in the members of the Justice League. Since the Lex in that world is wicked and evil, the police officers strip the new Lex of his clothing to be sure he means no harm. The Justice League members arrive, and Superman scans Lex immediately and tells them Lex isn't of their world. For one, the Lex in their world is in jail, and the Lex in their presence has his heart and organs in opposite directions, showing that he's from a parallel world. They ask Lex to dress up, and they take him to their headquarters, where he explains that his world is much different from theirs, and he's the leader of the Justice League in his world. Not only is he the leader, but he's also the only surviving member of the Justice League. Because there's an organization like the Justice League in his world that has superpowers, and all the members of the Justice League in the real world belong to that group called the Crime Syndicate. And all they do is evil. The government couldn't control them, and they bribed almost all the organizations. Even the prosecutors couldn't prosecute. He tells them that the only thing holding the members of the crime syndicate from toppling the government is the threat of nuclear weapons. So he's there to ask for their help in defeating this criminal organization. They ask him to excuse them so they can make a decision. Superman says he doesn't trust Lex and has never met a Lex in any world that's good. But another member says he could read that Lex is telling the truth. Wonder Woman is of the opinion that the conversation shouldn't be happening because they have promised to save the world, and they must do so. Batman jumps in. He tells them they aren't helping. He admits that they have promised to save the world, but the world they promised to save is their world. They have a lot on their tables. They aren't even done with building their headquarters, so they shouldn't add that trouble to theirs again. But the others refuse. They insist on helping, and they go out to meet Lex, leaving Batman at home. Lex tells them he has a plan. He takes them on a trip to his parallel world. Meanwhile, in the parallel world, the members of the crime syndicate, Owlman, Ultraman, Superwoman, Power Ring, and John Quick search Lex's home for the quantum trigger Lex took from their headquarters. They realize that Lex has gotten the key to the second world, and while they search, the Justice League members arrive. They defeat the members of the crime syndicate, but Lex tells them to retreat. He tells them the crime syndicate has called for some backup. They retreat through the air, but Owlman attacks him. Wonder Woman takes over Owlman's plane, and they find their way home. Later, the members of the crime syndicate have a meeting where they legislate how to replace their dead members. And they also talk about the device, the quantum eigenstate device, which they have planned to use to overtake the government. The device has Heisenberg, which gives the government the option of either bowing to them or dying. On the other hand, Rose, the president's daughter, gives a press conference that she insists that the citizens should stop being afraid of the crime syndicate. The journalists ask her why she's giving a different opinion from her dad, and she says that she and her father have conflicting interests in that subject matter, and she also has freedom of speech. The Justice League members, along with Lex, get to Joker's playground. He shows them the members of the syndicate, and Superman tells them they should divide themselves into groups and fight immediately. Meanwhile, at Owlman's house, he tells his lover, Superwoman, that he has found something at Lex's house that can be used to travel to other worlds. Superwoman is excited about this and says with it, they can lead all the parallel worlds. The Justice League divides itself to fight. Superman and Lex go to look for Ultraman, but they meet Olsen. And Olsen attempts to fight Superman. Lex asks Superman to take on Olsen while he fights Ultraman himself, because if it will be worth something when they leave the world, then he has to be the one to do it. Ultraman arrives and overpowers Lex immediately. However, Lex brings out the blue kryptonite, the only thing that can defeat Ultraman. He reminds Ultraman that although he has destroyed the one in their world, he got some from the alternate world. He fights Ultraman and defeats him, but the president, Wilson, calls for him. Wilson asks the members of the Justice League to return to their world and stop trying to take on the syndicate because they won't stay to protect them. Rose comes out and calls her father a coward. She tells him they should fight the syndicate now that they can, but Wilson refuses. The members of the Justice League leave the office, telling Wilson that they won't stop trying. Wilson releases Ultraman, but Ultraman warns him to warn Rose, insisting that when Rose does another conference, he will kill her. Owlman tells Superwoman that he wants to use the QED they made to destroy the world. Superwoman asks him what's his reason for such a decision. He tells it to her because even if they are the best in that world, there's an alternate world where they are the worst. There's an alternate world where they are the opposite of what they are. And the best thing he can do is to destroy the Earth Prime. That way, every other alternate world will be destroyed. She accepts to support him in his idea, and she takes the Earth-traveling device to travel to the Justice League Earth to take back the quantum trigger, which Lex has kept in that world. As she arrives in that world, Batman gets notified. He goes to fight her, but she overpowers him and takes him back to her world. Meanwhile, Rose hosts another conference where she enlightens the people to stop fearing the syndicate. As a result, a member of the syndicate shoots an arrow at her, but Martian Manhunter takes the arrow. He goes to the attacker and throws him off the cliff before going back to Rose, who appreciates him for his help, and he asks her if he should keep protecting her. She accepts his offer. Arriving at the parallel Earth, Superwoman sends one of her men to give the quantum trigger to Owlman, then sets out to torture Batman. Batman throws anesthesia into the room and protects himself from the result. As she sleeps, he ties her down. He calls his team and asks Lex what's so important in the quantum trigger that could make Superwoman come to another world to get it. Lex tells them the QED can only work with the quantum trigger, and now that Owlman has it back, he can destroy the world. Superwoman laughs at them. She tells them they hope for something bigger than destroying just one world. On the other hand, some syndicate members sit together to talk about how they lost their name in their world. While they talk, the person Superwoman sent with the quantum trigger arrives and gives it to Owlman. The Justice League member, alongside Superwoman, fly towards Owlman's house to get the quantum trigger. As they get there, they start a fight. During the fight, Owlman takes the QED to the Prime Earth. Lex tells the others this, and even the members of the crime syndicate are shocked that Owlman and Superwoman planned that at their back. Batman decides to travel to the Prime world to fight Owlman, but they realize that Owlman has locked them up, and they will need a swift person to reverse and open the portal. Flash volunteers, but Batman tells him he isn't fast enough, so Quick Johnny volunteers. Quick Johnny reverses the portal, and Batman goes to fight Owlman. During their struggle, Batman transfers Owlman and the QED to a lonely world, and the QED detonates there. When Batman returns to the parallel world and Quick Johnny stops his reverse, Quick Johnny is almost dead. He tells Batman that he knows Batman lied about Flash not being fast enough because he knows Flash might die, but he isn't angry at Batman because they were able to save the world. He dies with a smile on his face. The members of the Justice League circle up the surviving members of the crime syndicate as Martian Manhunter arrives with Wilson and a Marine to round the criminals up. After this act, Wilson appreciates the Justice League for saving their world and tells them he has sent the State Force out to round up the bad ones. Rose refuses to say goodbye to Manhunter as they are already in love. Wonder Woman asks Manhunter to stay if he wishes to, but he refuses and leaves with his team. Upon arriving at their world, Superman admits to Batman that he was right and they shouldn't have interfered in that world, but Superman agrees they were right too. Thanks for watching the recap. Kindly subscribe to our channel to get notified when we post the next recap.